The news is back. Welcome, everybody. I'm John. There's Josh over there. Dave is here along with Dr. Mike. Last week, we talked about the Katowice Climate Conference. I forgot the official title, whatever it's called.
I think it's COP24.
COP24. What a catchy name. Have you noticed the police sirens here like all week, and the traffic jams and the trams backed up waiting to get to tram stops? It's been a nightmare. People blaming it on the conference. Is that true?
I thought it was Paul McCartney staying at the Sheraton, wasn't it, Brian?
Oh, that could be it as well. That was just one day, though.
I can confirm the traffic's been awful out in the Bonarka region, but I thought that was due to maybe Christmas shopping or something. But I forgot all about the climate conference. We were talking about it last week.
Well, people are saying there's so many VIPs at the conference that probably chose to stay here because it's a convenient drive, and so they're getting police motorcade escorts and whatnot, and it's just a challenge. The Terminator, Arnold Schwarzenegger himself, was there a few days ago, so it's officially a big deal then.
Is he promising to return?
Oh,
I believe he said,
I'll be back.
Yeah,
anyway,
I was going to go there.
The climate conference in Katowice is making the news for lots of different reasons, and not just because it's a pain in the ass for us living here in town. Still going on as we speak, by the way, but Dave, the goals of the conference don't seem to match the goals and intentions of the Polish government when it comes to energy policy.
Well, look, it's a big bus to turn around, isn't it? Yeah, you have to look no further than China, where we're always hearing about exciting new developments in nuclear plants and different types of gas plants, and at the same time they're ordering 150 new coal plants, because you got to produce the amount of energy you need one way or the other, and it's not an easy thing to transition from one source to another. The only exciting idea I saw really mentioned in an article was the idea of building a very large hydrogen refinery somewhere up in near Gdansk. And the idea of scaling up hydrogen is one that's been on the table now for quite some time. It's a long-range fuel. The traditional problem with it, there's no emissions that come out of an exhaust pipe of a hydrogen car. The traditional problem is extracting and purifying the hydrogen. It's quite a energy-intensive process itself. So you would think a large-scale refinery of hydrogen could be an exciting idea. But like I said, we're a long, long way from solving these problems.
Even if that works out, isn't it basically a supplement to the foundation, the core of the energy sector, which is coal? This is coal country. Poland is a major producer of coal. Politically, it's kind of embedded in the government and the way things are. Dr. Mike, isn't it true that the Polish government is a big defender of coal, big supporter of coal, and alternative energy sources are kind of something they kind of bring out to kind of distract from the fact that they are supporters of coal?
Exactly. I mean, coal is a huge industry here. You have tens of thousands of people that are employed. Historically, back to the Solidarność movement, coal miners were part of the group that were trying to fight against communism. So they're always going to be treated well. Plus, the fact is most people in the Polish government here don't really sign up to the whole climate change, we need alternative energy thing. It's just they want to play nice with Europe. So they say, like, yeah, we need electric cars, but the electricity is going to be made by coal-fired plants.
Apparently, Poland is home to about half of Europe's coal miners, not counting Russia in that, but half of the European Union's coal miners. And so, it might be easy to dismiss coal and attack coal as a dirty energy source in some other parts of the European Union. But here in Poland, people have a very different approach to this.
The Germans use loads of coal as well,
Yeah, but they don't do anything with it, do they?
No. But Poles, they like to be dirty, so they like their coal.
In Ireland, we burn turf peat in our largest incinerator to produce power, which is a much dirtier fuel.
What is that?
It's like bogland, turf.
Yeah, okay. Peat is basically coal in a very early stage of development. Because
coal is 50 million years.
Yeah.
Compressed
vegetation, and coal is kind of like essentially mineralized, compressed vegetation.
So which burns dirtier?
Oh, peat by a long, considerable margin.
So is this not a problem in environmentally conscious Ireland?
It's the same thing. It's always been done that way. It's an entrenched tradition, peat cutting, and there's jobs and politics involved. The people who run that incinerator have their own political levers.
Do you get the feeling that Warsaw is happy to host? I mean, I know it's in Katowice.
We're all hypocrites when it comes to this.
Warsaw as a country, the government is proud to host this conference and kind of bask in the glow of being environmentally friendly, but at the same time they'll be happy to see it finish and move on.
I think they're laughing their asses off that they're actually hosting it in Katowice, a big mining coal city. It's kind of a big FU to the whole UN and climate change industry.
It's kind of comparable to the Saudi Arabia being on the human rights kind of United Nations.
Yeah, something doesn't ring quite right about it. Well, anyway, moving on. We've got a double dose of Lech Wałęsa for you people.
Woo!
Yeah, I know. I can feel the excitement. Double dose of Lech Wałęsa. One thing is a follow-up on a story we talked about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, when we were discussing a lawsuit filed by Jarosław Kaczyński against Lech Wałęsa for slander, I believe it was, for slander, for defaming him.
That's for libel, yeah.
For libel, yes, libel. For suggesting in the media that Kaczyński told his brother, Lech Kaczyński, on the phone to tell the pilot of the plane that Lech Kaczyński, was on to land in tough weather conditions, which resulted in the Smolensk air disaster. Did I get that right, Mike?
Exactly, yeah. He's saying that Wałęsa is saying that he's responsible for all those deaths.
So, yeah, Wałęsa says that Jarosław Kaczyński is responsible for those deaths because he told his brother to... Anyway, it's complicated. And anyway, we get the results of the lawsuit this week. Guilty is the verdict. Lech Wałęsa guilty of libel. And he's supposed to pay I think it's 7,000 euros he was sued for, and a public apology. Mike is shaking his head.
Actually, no. The court says, no, you don't have to pay anything, but you do have to publicly apologize. So, in newspapers and et cetera, and media outlets that, I'm sorry, I didn't mean this, or I lied, et cetera, et cetera. But this is only the first round, the first level of the courts, and Wałęsa is going to appeal.
Yeah, Can you compel someone to apologize? I've never heard of that before.
Basically, they have to pay for media outlets to say a statement that the court says you have to say, and you have to sign it.
They can't make him mean it, though.
Well, as Mike says, there's still another level. There's an appeal ahead of us for sure. But in today's media, in today's press, I saw that Wałęsa reacted to the verdict with a big whatever. He says he has... He says he has no intention of apologizing.
It's over.
Yeah.
Basically, he says he has evidence for the fact that Kaczyński told his brother to land the plane, but he couldn't show the evidence in court, but he will show the evidence to prove his case. It makes no sense.
Or something. Okay, weird. The one thing that stands out to me about this whole thing with the verdict coming today, and I say this as someone who has a lot of experience with the Polish court system, all of it bad, the thing that strikes me is about this is how quickly your case moves through the courts when your name is Jarosław Kaczyński. He didn't wait years like other people wait.
Yeah.
It was in no one's interest to have this dragging on for years, really.
I mean, anybody else, you could count on, again, literally years before your case came to a resolution. And he got it in what, weeks or months?
I wouldn't be surprised if the judge actually decided to do this kind of compromise where, okay, yes, right on the liable, but no 30,000 zloty fine, and let the other court handle it. It's quickly get rid of it. It's not my fault. Either way, don't hate me. I'm moving on now.
I've had enough attention from this trial. Please
exactly.
Go away, press.
Maybe it's time for the judge to retire, right?
Well, we'll see what happens when the appeal comes along. I said a double dose. The second half of this Wałęsa fest, he was in the news for other reasons. He's in the news a lot this week, but you may have seen him mention about this. Very interesting. George Bush, the American president, passed away. And a big funeral in Washington, of course. And Wałęsa was part of the Polish delegation to the funeral. And he wore, at the state funeral for a dead American president, he wore a T-shirt, the iconic Konstytucja T-shirt, to protest what he says is
How did that make you feel, John?
I think it's ridiculous. Well, anyway, let me finish. He wears it because he's protesting the Polish domestic political situation and protesting against the Law and Justice Party. Anyway, let's be honest. Anybody else does this? No, let's reverse it. Let's say it's a funeral for a Polish head of state or a former head of state, and an American shows up in a T-shirt. How do you think that would be treated in the press?
Like a nasty woman T-shirt or a mega hat or something like that.
Like a pussy hat or something
statement.
Like that.
It's not the right place. Wałęsa,
absolutely not the right place. He
didn't have you couldn't see the shirt. He had it was buttoned up. You really couldn't tell.
Like a sport coat over it.
Yeah, but he was actually asked by the media. It's do you think this is appropriate? And he said something like, "Well, what's appropriate for a funeral?" I just face palmed myself. It's a suit, a black tie. There's a lot of things that are considered appropriate for a funeral. A T-shirt with a political statement, probably not.
I think he's enjoying somewhat of an unexpected resurgence, and he wants to keep the momentum going. And I think he thought in his head, George Bush loved freedom. He loved, constitutions. He'd be okay with it.
I don't know. I think it's important to remember that in the United States, and we talked about this before, in the United States, Lech Wałęsa enjoys a respect and a popularity to the extent that people think about Polish politics at all, that he doesn't enjoy here. He has a better image there than he has here, which is surprising for a lot of people.
Same in Ireland, I would say. Yeah. He's the icon of solidarity.
So I think he's seen, I don't want to say a clown. That might be a bit harsh, but he needs to kind of tone it down sometimes here. And so what's playing in the media there is, a bold political statement is a bit cringy here, and kind of another reason for his detractors to attack him.
There you go, Nobel Prize winner Lech Wałęsa. John's not having
Take that. Moving on in the news this week that Polish kids are fat. Well, okay, that's
John. Why are you walking around the school there?
That's a bit of a simplification. Let me give you the details here. Reports coming out that 8 in 10 Polish kids don't get the exercise they need, and the result of this, of course, predictably, is a shocking rise in obesity among Polish kids, way, way, way up, among the highest in Europe, as a matter of fact. Guys, this kind of matches what an impression that I've had for a long time.
Central heating,
living here,
and car ownership.
No. Well, that too. Poland has never struck me as a particularly sporting culture. And part of that is you don't see the kids involved in organized sports very much, and playground sports and whatnot. And this is kind of one of the consequences. Do you think I'm wrong in that? Or
no, I agree with you. There were no weekend sports or anything like that. But also, when I first came to Poland in the late 90s, when I moved here, I was kind of a chubby American kid. But in the States, I wasn't fat. I was just normal. But here, I was the biggest kid in my class. And I thought everybody must have had anorexia or bulimia. They were all like skinny and lean. Only a few years later did I realize, yes, skinny, lean girls are attractive.
A different podcast, Mike.
But
talking about kids, dude.
No, but I'm saying it's like the culture of obesity and weight and everything. Like, they've gotten a lot thicker nowadays. And kids as well. When I was studying here, I actually had an internship with a pediatric and endocrinologist, and she said in the 80s, the main problem with like kids when it came to their weight was that they were underweight, seriously underweight, and usually then it was hormonal, something was wrong, et cetera, because they would get enough food, they just weren't putting on weight. She said within about 5-10 years, by the mid-90s, when kids were coming in with weight problems, it wasn't that they were underweight, it was that they were overweight, and most of the time it was nothing hormonal, nothing health-related, it was just parents feeding them junk food crap all the time.
Can I just say, I love junk food and freedom, and when your country gets well, the first few years, everyone gets a bit fat.
Exactly, it's a consequence of prosperity.
People have high quality
a disposable income now they didn't have 20 years ago, and a lot of that disposable income goes on delicious, sugary food.
Yeah, excessively nutritious food, yes.
People not picking so many mushrooms these days, which is obviously a big burner of calories, isn't it?
It's one of those things, so you can observe it as a truth, and there's no doubt Polish people are getting fatter. But what can you do about it? You can't legislate for it. You can't really tell people any more than they already know, and everybody knows what the foods are that will make you a bit fatter.
That's true, but what do you think about what I said earlier about Polish kids not being very involved in sports and sporting activities?
No, it's true here. When I started studying, we had gym class once or twice a week. It was 45 minutes running around the room. Yeah. When it comes to sports and teams and stuff like that, it's really limited. There are only a few high schools in like the city that have anything to do with sports, and you have to want to, at the age of 13, go to a sports high school.
I have to say, growing up in the suburbs of Dublin, where there was just perfectly manicured fields everywhere that we could play football on, just close to home. I do look out the window, and it's a densely populated city. There's not many green spaces where you can do that.
That's part of the problem.
Even you know what I find over here, having grown up in the lush, fertile fields and valleys of Ireland, that you walk up to a patch of seemingly flat grass in Poland. Do you think it's appropriate for a little ball game? But then you get it's all kind of rocky and hard and mucky and bumpy, and it's just, it's not really great playing surface. Shame on your grass, Poland.
The park should be more manicured and perfectly level.
Look, in Ireland, we just naturally grow perfect grass. Same in England. Just the country's green. If there's a patch of grass, it just grows perfectly. The only problem is cutting it, which is a high quality problem with grass.
All right, Poland, get your grass sorted out here.
Seriously,
according to
Poland,
Dave.
get your shit together.
Moving on, this is something that's interesting for those of you listening who are old enough to remember, and some of you listening, if you're not Polish, you might not get this immediately, but we'll explain it to you. The kiosk culture. Kiosks were a fixture, just a fundamental aspect of Polish life for a long time. Until maybe 15 years ago, and things started to change. The kiosk was where you went for a pack of cigarettes, for the newspaper, for a piece of candy, odds and ends. It was kind of a place to like
tram tickets, and bus
tram
tickets,
lots of things. Toothpaste.
We used to have great fun observing the random items at the side of each kiosk, up high at the back. You know the way they display the items in the glass cases.
Yeah, for sure, right up against the window there.
See some random shit there.
And this dates back to long before shopping malls and certainly before Żabka and Fresh Market and all the rest of it. But in today's world, the kiosk has found difficulty finding its place, and the biggest company that managed these kiosks was called Ruch. And Ruch is apparently on its very last financial legs, probably going to collapse soon. And we can look forward to a day pretty soon when there will be no more kiosks.
Coffee stands. Good coffee stands. That's what they should do.
Maybe. Dr. Mike, what do you think about the disappearance of kiosks?
I'm not surprised. They were like little miniature convenience stores back in the day when you didn't have convenience stores. And they were the only thing that were open after hours. Plus, of course, you could buy your tram tickets there. You could buy newspapers. Okay. And nowadays, nobody reads newspapers. Tram tickets, you can buy them on the actual tram, or they have like the little automated machines. So you have less of a reason to go to the kiosk.
There's no reason to go there at all now, really.
I miss going to the kiosk. It was part of Krakow life when I first got here.
You got a Żabka across the street.
Well, they never had change, for Christ's sakes.
That's true, too. Yeah. The Żabka has basically replaced the kiosk, but Żabka is bigger and nicer and has more stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's inside without rain. The only thing that might have saved them, and honestly, this is the last time I went to a Ruch kiosk, was the fact that you could now pick up parcels there. So you order something on Allegro, Polish eBay, and you can have it delivered to the kiosk.
Oh, but you can pick that stuff up at Żabka now, too.
Exactly. But the thing is, when I order on Allegro, the only ones that come up as an option are the kiosks from Ruch for me, closest to me.
Big shout out to the Żabka on the corner of Rzeźnica. That man knows what he's doing. It's
that's Dave's local.
Best Żabka in town. It always has good prices, good deals, rotated stock, lots of interesting items, good alcohol.
Like every other Żabka.
It's basically a substitute for Carrefour, which is a massive supermarket. I can get nearly everything I need there, and it's usually cheaper, believe it or not.
When was the last time you bought something anything at all from a kiosk?
Oh man, I used to always be tram tickets, or Collins would be always stopping at kiosks for cigarettes and
cigarettes, I suppose, from time to time. But even then, it's only occasionally.
And I'll bet you the kiosk makes a profit of 20 groszy on a pack of cigarettes, and so that's not going to help them very much.
There was always a huge variable level of service in those kiosks as well. There's a particularly grim looking kiosk across the street from that Żabka, actually, outside Galleria Kashmir's. He never has anything, but
wonder why they're going out of business.
Yeah, like 2 items of stock in the fridge. A fridge with literally 2 cans of Coke.
A fridge?
An outside fridge. Another sacred Krakow tradition, the lockable fridge from the outside, where you have to get shouted at before you open the door, and there was only ever a second delay. And
or the embarrassing attempt to open it before somebody says no. You have to have the person inside
every time
press the button.
That was me. Yeah,
that's got me many times as well. We mentioned tram tickets a couple of times there on the subject of trams. This is one of our favorite subjects on the KrakCast, really, trams. This week it was announced the city government's going to spend, actually, I should say borrow. They're going to borrow and then spend 376 million zloty. That's almost exactly $100 million right now, to buy 40 new trams of the long kind, the wiener sausage dog on the side of some of them, actually, whatever they're called.
Long tram coming, I
think.
The
long tram coming. 40 new trams to put on the streets of Krakow, which will finally replace the few remaining old trams, the one the type you have to step up onto, like the
22, 24.
Difficult for old people and little kids and babies and whatnot. Anyway, we'll have all new trams, air conditioned, bright lit, nice screens and advertisements and a place to plug in your phone and put your bike and all the rest of it.
Thai massage.
All the extras.
It's badly needed, John. There's a much bigger capacity on these trams, and I tell you something.
The official count is 220 people on one of those.
The
things.
system is getting full to capacity at the moment. It's the volume is considerable.
But isn't it also a nice calling card for the city, Josh, to see these nice new trams on the road rather than those old clunkers?
Oh yeah, I think it's part of the sort of burnishing the city's kind of self-image. You see these sleek modern trams kind of contrasting against the medieval backdrop. And,
in fairness, the trams are nice. They would not be out of place in any city in the world. They are very, very nice.
Trams, top drawer. I can get the 50 up to Galeria Krakowska. You step onto an air-conditioned 50 tram for less than the price of a packet of biscuits, and you're in Galeria underground in a cool tunnel. I know you hate tunnels.
Well, they're meant to be on the roads of Krakow by the end of 2020. So in the next year or so, we should all be... that's 2 years from now. The next 2 years... the old tram should be a thing of the past. We'll probably ship them off to Uzbekistan or someplace like that.
They were supposed to be a thing of the past like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
That is a good point, actually.
Yeah, I might send them to Poznan.
Another topic we've mentioned before on the KrakCast, a couple of months ago, we told you about a motion passed by the city council that banned the sale of alcohol after 10 p.m. in the Old Town and Kazimierz and in Podgórze. It's supposed to come into effect December 26th, conveniently just the day after Christmas. But just this week, a judge put a ban on the ban. He suspended it. He said it can't come into effect. It's not really an objection to the purpose or the intent of the law. It's some kind of procedural thing that they have to sort out. So it looks like the ban is still going to happen, just at a later date. Dr. Mike, surprised?
Not really, no. I mean, there's a lot of businesses that make money off of selling alcohol at 3 a.m, and apparently this was brought to the court's attention by one of those businesses saying, like, "Oh, I'm going to have to, fire."
Are you suggesting some kind of like a informal deal, or what do you mean by brought to their attention? They broke somebody's leg or something?
Well, maybe there's something under the table there besides just drinking. But basically, somebody said, like, wait. The law says that this has to have legal opinions from, every district of the city. But the law just says that it actually has to have legal opinions from a district. It doesn't say from every district or from just one district. And he's saying that the law is not very clear. So a judge needs to decide whether or not the law is properly being interpreted and implemented. And until they decide that, there's been an injunction issued. So we have to wait a couple of more months.
So you see the procedural foot dragging you can get into if you want to delay stuff, which, again, to go back to what we were talking about earlier, but with the legal case between Wałęsa and Kaczynski, I'm convinced that Kaczynski got this put in the express lane and resolved quickly, because in the Polish courts, there's no end to the ways that you can just slow things down to a crawl if you want to.
Is there a reason you're making that point again?
I don't know. It just
it almost sounds personal.
It just bothers me. But anyway, alcohol ban's still going to happen. It's just a question of when, but it's delayed for now, so you'll be able to get your booze after 10 p.m. On New Year's Eve, I guess. Right?
Yay.
I don't like any banning or discouragement of use of alcohol. There's too much of this nanny stateism around. We all need to be able to buy alcohol after 10 p.m. just in case we want to.
Freedom for booze.
Freedom.
Absolutely.
Dr. Mike, big change in the interesting change in the rules. How can I say this? In the rules governing garbage in Krakow, yeah?
It's kind of trash. Yeah. Well, right now, when you throw your trash out, you are more or less inclined by the government to, segregate your trash. You've got your regular trash.
So encouraged, you mean? Kind of like you can if you want to, but you don't have to.
And welcome Poland to recycling hell, where the rest of the civilized world has lived for the last decade, trying to find out what's a single-use plastic and a hard plastic and God.
Technically, you can pay more to your garbage collectors and not segregate your trash. But right now, you can pay less by having a yellow bag where you throw in everything that should technically be recyclable. But now the city's being forced by legislation from the government to introduce new changes that not only we have your regular trash, you have the yellow bag, which will be just for, now let me remember this right, for plastics.
You'll have bag?
Yeah, the yellow bag for trash or container.
So if you live in a block, for example, you go downstairs where you toss your garbage, there's going to be a yellow bag?
Well, it's going to be yellow, either like a bag container. Or a container.
Okay.
Yellow will be for plastics. Blue will be for paper and cardboard.
Hold on a second. What about a coffee cup?
See, this is where people get confused.
Styrofoam.
Green, I believe, will be for glass.
Coffee cup is plastic on the inside.
All right, wait, so let me stop you there again.
The
this is downstairs. When I take my garbage out of my apartment and I go downstairs, I'm supposed to pre-segregate it in advance. I'm supposed to carry 4 bags in the elevator.
You have like 16 different trash cans at home, and then throw.
No fucking
I'm boiling
way.
over. I feel swear words coming. This annoys me so much. Sorry.
But sorry, this is actually, the city was complaining to the fact, like, the central government has decided it this way. But in Krakow, it makes no sense because all our stuff that's being recycled is still sent off to a recycling center where we, filter it, segregate it, separate it accordingly. So if it's 1 bag or 4, it doesn't matter to the city. They still collect it. It goes to one central recycling center, and that's where they decide, okay, this is plastic, this is metal, this is glass, et cetera, et cetera. Just to make things kind of amusing or quote-unquote ironic, this new law is supposed to be implemented from April 1st, 2019.
Right before Earth Day. Isn't Earth Day like April 20th or 21st or something like that?
Yeah, Hitler's birthday.
Hey,
there we go. No news episode.
We
is
needed our
complete.
Nazi connection.
Oh, sorry, was
You
it Hitler's
saved us
birthday
at
or
the
Lenin's
last-
birthday? I always get
Hitler's birthday I think it's in April. Lenin's birthday.
No, none of us really want to pretend that we just know it. Just
Yeah,
like
let's
that.
just-
I'm sorry, but for me,
skip over that.
Lenin, Hitler, kind of the same
All right.
bag.
Anyway,
yeah.
we're talking about garbage
Not
here.
worth
Keep it
being
light.
recycled.
Keep it
Exactly,
light, for
we're garbage
Christ's sake.
bags.
Human garbage.
Josh, do you really make any intentional effort to separate your garbage?
I put the bottles in a separate place. That's it.
Okay, Mike.
Of course not.
I'll be honest. It's not a fashionable thing to say. Not a nice thing to say. I don't give a damn about segregating my garbage. I'm sorry.
You're an American, man. You were raised to believe that everything should be together.
No, it's not even that.
Equal.
You make it easy for me. Okay, fine. If I'm at a restaurant or if I'm in public and it says, please put your paper here, your metal here, your plastic here, fine, I'll do it. But I'm not gonna have 3 or 4 garbage cans in my kitchen, separate garbage cans. And I'm not going to then take 3 or 4 separate garbage bags downstairs and then put. No, it's not going to happen.
Well, it makes no sense because no matter how well you think you're segregating and separating it, they still have to check after you. So if they're still going to have to check after you, why not just throw everything in one bag and let them take care of it?
But I think Dave's right though. Other places, Germany comes to mind. It's an obsession. It's an absolute national obsession.
John, you couldn't. The UK.
They're all
The
about
UK is just like
segregating.
that.
Seriously.
Yeah, and not only do you have all these different bins, but you put them out on different days.
What?
And they've been cutting down the unsegregated rubbish collection to like once a fortnight. So now you have kind of rubbish kind of stacked outside your house for up to a fortnight.
And the point of all this is what again?
Just
the environment, isn't it?
Well, no, to make you pay more because if you screw anything up, they won't collect that trash and you have to pay extra then to collect it or you get a fine.
No, but honest question, and not making fun of anything here. How does segregating our garbage help anything?
No, it just makes you feel better.
No, really. It goes to the incinerator or whatever, the processing plant, whatever they call it, and it's burned. What can be burned is burned, and what can be recycled, I guess, is recycled. But we're just making it easier for the recyclers to get what they need to recycle? I don't get it.
That's the idea, but the problem is, I don't know how it is right now, but a couple of years in Krakow when they actually had the places where they collect the trash, like the aluminum, the glass, nobody was picking up the materials. So after like 6 months or a year, they would just end up throwing it in the landfill anyway.
But the people who separated their stuff and put the stuff in there that sat there for 6 months felt better about themselves and how they helped the environment or
exactly.
something.
And it's all about how you feel. It's about the feels.
I don't like to finish on a down note, but that's where we're going to finish. Anyway, there you have all the news you need to know for this week. Oh, by the way, later this week, probably on Wednesday, well, certainly on Wednesday or Thursday, we're going to post our next episode. It's going to be a really cool interview with a journalist from TVN, Tev Wałęsa. He's going to talk about the media in Poland and freedom of the press and stuff like that. It's going to be a really cool conversation, so be sure to check that out. Anyway, thanks for listening. Give us a like on Facebook, and we'll see you next time on the KrakCast News.